Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome to another Monday evening, but I'd like to think even more importantly than that, welcome to another Cliff Notes Live. I hope y'all are doing fantastic, guys. Enjoyed the weekend. Hopefully you recovered from that wild and crazy Thursday night double eviction episode. That's going to go down. That's going to be one of the iconic episodes, don't y'all think? So much happened. Well, we'll talk about all of that. We'll talk about the HOH, the vetoes. It just was kind of a crazy weekend of Big Brother, and I'm glad to have it because my Aggie sure didn't do much in terms of college football. I'm so glad I had my Big Brother watching to fall back on. So we'll talk about all that. Before we get going, though, a big old SKD 143. Love my wife, love my kids, love reality TV, especially love Big Brother. Even more so, loving the folks that are out here that come out here and visit with me every Monday evening. Whether you're live or whether you're watching on replay, either way, thank you for the support. It means so much. I sit here and I look at this counter. I think this is episode 93. 93 weeks straight that we've been doing this. That's kind of cool. I so appreciate my online family, my real world family. Y'all are also special to me. So thank you so much. Now, before I get going further, I mentioned last week, Give Kids a World, the fundraiser that I'm raising money for, such a huge charity. I know I shouted out a lot of people last week who had contributed. Thank you to all those. Over the past week, I also had a few more folks that posted. I had a lot of anonymous donations. And so whoever you are, and I don't know who it is, hence the anonymous, but whoever you are, thank you for it. I do appreciate it so much. Such a great cause. I forgot to do it, but I'll post a link up there again tonight. So if anyone enjoys these shows and wants to throw a little towards Give Kids a World charity, it's an amazing group, and I do appreciate it. All right, let's talk about Big Brother. Before we do that, do I dare go through everyone that's out here and holler? Yeah, we'll do it real quick, but watch my auctioneer voice as we try to do this. Howdy, Nelly, you're number one. Jake, the horror movie geek. Howdy, Jake. Mark Taylor, Marilyn Sutherland, Cindy. Hi, Cindy. Kimber's 1, 2, 3. Anthony Stike. Hey, Anthony, you sent me a long, not that long, but I saw your discussion on DM, and I thought you were spot on with some of your analysis. Rich Fleming, Vicky Stone, Paula Scar. Chaz, hey Chaz, Karen Berkey, Amanda Lowe, hey Amanda, Janet Johnson as always, howdy Janet, Deborah Griffiths, Dan Pruitt, Logan Hambrick, Holly A. Holly, I can never see your name without thinking Holly Allen. Just too much time the Big Brother has. Paula Scar, Annie Berger, Lucindia S. I hope I said that right. I think I did. Brittany Garcia, LJ Price, Benjamin Rottenborn, Holly AC. Did I lose it? No, ATV008, Brian Hosseller. I may have said you before, Brian, but you're worthy of two of them. Jimmer Trefty, Fred Benson, Star, The Sunshine Act, Barbarella Haymaker. Well, that Barbarella, that's quite the name. I like that name. Philip Gooddyke, an interesting name this as well. And Elizabeth Kingray. And Jared. Don't want to leave out Jared as well. Welcome to all of y'all. Hey, I appreciate y'all being out here. Moss saying my phone lags so bad. You know what? I was off during the weekend trying to do live feeds, watching those things going on with the internet service, very spotty. Sometimes you got to put a little extra effort to make these things happen, but it's worth it. This week was so crazy. It was absolutely worth it. I wasn't going to miss out on any of it. All right. A couple of questions as we get going into it. Mark Taylor saying, who is best situated to win it all this year? Monty? I kind of think so. Here's the thing. We're at two phases now, I think. One, who's best situated to make it to final two? And then once they get there, who is the best situated to actually win this thing? So two different questions that you have to ask. Like Brittany, now I'm not going to say Brittany. I was going to say, if Brittany was to make it to the end, she doesn't have I think she's drawn dead. I just don't see her winning against anyone. So you kind of rule her out of the equation. I think Taylor has an incredible chance of making it to final three, right? I mean, I just don't see anyone targeting her next week, which means she makes final three, and then it just depends on what happens at that HOH. That's going to be the big question. If you're Monty or Turner, and you make it to that final three, say you win the final competition, you get to drag someone along with you. Who do you take with you? if you're Monty, do you take Turner with you? Do you take Taylor? They've got to be thinking, who can I win against? Who can I not win against? And so it kind of makes me wonder, as much conversation as we've heard from Monty going on and on about, I want Brittany gone, I don't trust her. Have we reached that tipping point where suddenly Turner and Monty both might be saying, having Brittany as a third could give each of us a little bit better chance of winning the jury vote at the very end of this thing. So maybe we shouldn't be quite so quick to send her out the door. I kind of don't think that's going to happen. I think it's just she's irritated them too much. I think it's going to be Monty and Turner and Taylor to the final three. If you make that assumption, who wins and takes the other one along with all of that? And I kind of am settling on Monty. I see that. Does Turner take Monty if he wins it? Yeah, maybe. I could see as well. So I think one of those two, and I think Monty takes the whole thing. But if I'm wrong, no shame in being wrong, because I don't know that Brittany necessarily is it. Well, if you get there, you deserve it. But I'm gonna say, as far as worthiness, Brittany maybe is a little bit on a lower level than the others there. Alyssa, I'm not really counting because I really think she's going home this week. She's going home, right? Do any of y'all think that they're going to flip and send Taylor out? I just don't see it. So between Monty and Taylor and Turner, any one of those three could win it and deserve it. I really think Monty and Turner are the two most deserving this whole house. All right. Marilyn Sutherland saying, seems unfair that Monty couldn't play in veto. Yeah, I don't know how many of y'all know about that. I couldn't wait. Just watching the feeds Friday night, Saturday morning, just as I think maybe I'm going to get a chance to take a little nap and then get up and watch the veto ceremony, or at least the after effects. We never get to see it. Excuse me. All of a sudden, the feed's cut at 5 a.m, which never happens. And next thing you know, they've had a veto competition. All I could think, because they never did that with us. We never had a competition that early. We had after the double eviction. Our HOH was very early in the morning, but veto, we never did it like that. So all I could think is maybe it has something to do with the sunrise, things like that. I still don't know exactly what it was. It was an indoor competition, so they didn't have to worry about. I assume it's indoor. We haven't seen it yet, but I think it was indoor. So we didn't. Well, I say that maybe not. Anyway. They woke them up early, but for those of you who don't know, they apparently gave them some kind of warning saying you must be downstairs by such and such time if you want to compete in this competition. Well, apparently Monty didn't make it down in time. Brittany came out holding her shoes because she didn't have time to put them on. Monty came down late, and they said, sorry, Monty, you're not playing. Is it unfair that he didn't get to play? I don't know. Again, we haven't seen it, so we don't know everything, but if it was part of the game, because here's the way it works, guys. When these vetoes work, the parts that maybe y'all don't see on the live feeds and all that, because the feed's cut off, we'll hear something along. We know a veto's coming up, and we'll hear something like Big Brother production. The speakers will say, "Houseguests, get ready. We've got the veto coming up. You need to make sure that your costume is on, whatever we're wearing that particular competition. Make sure your costume's on. Once everyone's ready, gather by the back door." So we all do that. There's always one or two people who the women are putting on some makeup, or someone's going to the bathroom, or someone doing costume adjustments or something. No one liked my costumes during my season. I wanted to take scissors and cut the sleeves off and things like that. But anyway, eventually you'll start hearing, come on, we need to get going, guys. Y'all go ahead and get ready. Then the doors open. You go outside. We run out there and we see everything. Like, oh, man, what's this going to be? So that's the way it normally works. I don't have a feeling that this was a situation where they're sitting there saying, Monty, come on, we need to go. If you don't get out here in the next minute or two, you're not going to make it. I don't think it was that. They had during season 2 or 3, one of the earlier seasons, they did something similar where they alarm went off in the house. They said, Houseguest, you got 2 minutes. You got 30 seconds warning. I think it was more like that, where everyone was told ahead of time, but as soon as that alarm went off, you've got just a short amount of time to get downstairs. If it's something like that and he didn't make it down, that's on him. I mean, yeah, I don't know if that would have worked better for me or not. Now, on the one hand, I tend to be a morning person. I think that I would have been more alert than most people because I'm used to getting up early. Heck, I may have already been sitting in the boat room drinking some coffee when the alarms went off. So that would work to my advantage. Disadvantage, I usually like to, I don't know. I get up, I shower and all of that. They probably would have done the alarm right in the middle of my shower. That may have been an interesting veto for me, but they do that so early in the morning for this group. And then it isn't just a puzzle of running back and forth, throwing balls in a hoop or something like that. Apparently, this was Turner described as an engineering puzzle that had gears and ladders, and you had to stick things in holes. And I'm imagining something where maybe you put a bunch of gears together and you turn a crank on one side and something happens on another side. You actually had to be thinking this stuff through. And Monty didn't get to play. Now, here's what's interesting. The veto winner was if you don't want to hear spoilers, you may want to mute this thing, come back in a day or two, because I am going to reveal spoilers. So the winner of this veto competition is Brittany. Now, I mean, Brittany won a competition. She is going to be going on and on that she won. I guarantee if she makes it to final two, her pitch is going to be that she won more competitions than any other female in the house. I know it's coming. I'm waiting for it to come this week as well. But what do you think about the fact Brittany's one who typically goes to bed earlier than any of the other house guests? All these house guests that thought it was so cool to stay up till 5:36, 7 in the morning, they may have paid a little bit of a price for it when it came to that time for that veto competition. If they weren't thinking things through and all that, as compared to Brittany, who had a full night's rest and all that, there may have been some consequences right there for all these late night stay-ups and talks and everything that these other house guests have said. I don't know. Long story short, I'm okay if you missed it, if they gave them the warning and everything else. It's kind of cool. I'm looking forward to seeing on the episode itself. All right. Chaz is saying, how nerve-wracking are the double evictions? They are so, Chad, man, we knew it was coming. We knew it was coming for 5 weeks. Every week we thought it was a double, and we thought it's a double. So, well, eventually we got it right. But when Julie announces that it's a double eviction, I think a lot of people, their first thought, especially if it's someone who even has the tiniest chance of being at risk, I think a lot of people, their first thought is, oh my God, I didn't even pack anything. If I go out the door, I haven't packed, I haven't done anything. Well, during my double eviction, I was on the block for the first half against Jessica. So I was already all packed. And so the horrible, cynical part of me was saying, well, hell, at least I already have my bags packed if something happens to it, which is not the way you need to be thinking. You got to be positive in there. But yeah, when Julie announced it, my first thought was, oh, here we go. It's getting ready to get crazy. Because during my season, we had Nicole and myself, we had Christy and Tommy, and we had Mickey and Holly. So we had 3 very well-defined sets of 2. It wasn't like this time where it was kind of, do we go this person? We kind of, I don't know. You had three groups, and it was like, all right, let's see whose loyalties really are going to come into play. Who's going to be loyal to us? I don't know. It was, you hear that and you immediately start spinning in your mind what kind of competition it is, and am I ready, and get yourself pumped up. As soon as you get the first eviction done, while they're doing the interviews with the evicted house guest, for us at least, I'm sure it's the same way here. You run into the backyard, you see the set. Quickly, someone reads some of the rules to you before Julie comes back on and kind of gives a summary of the rules. And before you know it, you're playing the game. And yeah, it's so snap, snap, snap quick. I know when I got done, with that competition, only time in my life I've had an asthma attack, and I started coughing because I was just so worked up and so frantic about everything. And as soon as we get done with that competition, they then said, all right, house guests, come over here. We're going to do or I guess we ran inside, did the nominations, and then you do the veto. You just don't have time to think whatsoever. So yeah, it's a crazy night because you just don't have a chance to catch your breath. By the time you get done, someone's out the door. You just want to sit there and go, oh, we did it. We survived. It's incredible. All right. And this week, or Thursday, even more incredible because they had so much riding on the line. With us, it was just which couple took dominance and all that. This week, it was whether or not we can get Michael out, who's going to win this thing if someone doesn't do something. And so for them to suddenly see this take place, and my understanding is that Turner did not originally plan when he won that HOH, based on what we saw in the episodes and some discussions online or on the live feeds. Turner really wasn't planning to send Michael out the door. And Monty just brought that up after the veto. So not only is it rush, 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 but now you've got some decision making that's having to take place in a very short period of time. But having said all that, if there was ever a time that you were going to get Michael out of that house, a double eviction has got to be the perfect time, right? The way that guy can craft an argument, the way he could pitch to people, if they had given him a week in that house to convince people to support him, I think even as big a target as he's got, as strong a competitor as he is, I think he may have convinced people to keep him in the house. I just think he's that good with his convincing. He is an attorney, and it showed right there. We've heard Alyssa was sitting out, I think, on the hammock yesterday or last night, and she at one point said that she really, if it had been just up to her, she would have let Michael stay and go after the two guys. So he had her convinced about what he was trying to sell. I think given a week, he may have done the same thing with one or two others. So perfect timing to get him out the door. It was just incredible. All right. Paula Scar. Seems like they were always sleeping. It doesn't it? I know. And it's because they stay up so late. They're allowed to sleep in. And I guess it's just Big Brother Production has decided that this year, these house guests just, as long as they'll give us plenty of content all night long, we'll let them sleep during the day and let them be boring as possible. And there's a part of me that gets it, because so many people work during the day, go to school during the day. You can't watch the conversations when they're at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's a lot tougher, right? But everyone, if you don't need sleep, who needs sleep? You can watch at 3 o'clock in the morning and see what's going on. So maybe they've decided that, yeah, as long as they'll stay up and talk, we'll let them sleep in a little bit later, because there's been a whole lot of that. My season, 10 o'clock, 10:05, they're sitting there saying, house guest, it's time to get up. One of the things, I don't know if y'all, they may have done a live feeds every once in a while. One of the ones I always laughed at was normally when they wake you up in the morning, they'll play music, and then they'll say, house guest, it's time to wake up. There are fresh batteries available in the storage room. Amazing how you hear that so many times. It just stays in your brain forever after that. So that's the normal deal. But sometimes people wouldn't wake up in time, and you'd hear it again. House guest, it's time to get up. But sometimes they get a little more fun with it. That's a house guest, wakey, wakey. And I don't know, I always got a chuckle out of that. Kat Dunn slept late. They let her sleep late for whatever reason. The rest of us, we pretty much had to be up most of the time. All right. Janet Johnson says, who provides the items in the HOH basket? Well, it's the HOH fairies, right? That just magically bring the stuff. I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. Whoever's the lowest on the production assistant deal. Well, it depends. Excuse me. There's two different things. There's two different parts of an HOH basket. There's one or two items that are provided from home. For example, when I won my HOH basket, I got a rose that made an origami rose that I'd made for my wife, for Sharon. I'd made 3 or 4 of these things and had them in a little origami vase I'd made at home and everything. Well, she picked one of them and she sent it to me, and the most wonderful possible thing that she could have sent. It just meant so much. As soon as I saw that, I wore it from that point on during every ceremony and everything else. So that was provided from home. And if I recall, at some point, of course, I wasn't there, so I'm kind of going off what I saw, but at some point, my family was contacted, said, hey, just in case he wins an HOH or two, during this competition, we need a few items. Can you give us a list of things that maybe you'd like to send, and we'll tell you what's good, what's not. And I think they explained a few things, or they sent a few things, and then at some point, Big Brother keeps them in storage somewhere. If you win, they reach over, they grab a few personal items and give them to you. So a little bit of it's provided by the family. The rest of it, it's just provided by someone in production that as soon as you win that HOH, I guess they're sending someone off to the local grocery store to try to stock up based on your listing. Now, one of the things that happens while you're in sequester, we're locked away from everyone, media, people, everything for a week or so before the game starts. One of the things that we have to do is fill out a sheet of paper that list, what's your favorite frozen foods? What's your least favorite foods? What's your favorite desserts? What's your least favorite? What kind of fruits do you like? Do you like sweets? Do you like chips? Just a whole big list of questionnaire type stuff, and you fill it all out. What are your favorite cookies? Stuff like that. You fill it all out, and so I'm sure as soon as you win an HOH, someone's giving a list. They say, "All right, get down there, buy everything that you can." And so they do it like that. So you don't really know what you're going to get. For the most part, you kind of you're hoping that they follow along with what you put down. Now, in my case, one of the things I got that was special in the HOH basket as well, I wanted to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11 landing on the moon. So I'd asked for a little American flag that I could use to reenact the thing. And I was told that, well, Cliff, that's something that you'd have to request as part of an HOH basket. And it's like, oh, dang it, you won't even give me American flag? Come on, guys. You think that'd be just kind of a gimme. No, you got to win something, Cliff. All right. So I just happened to win HOH the night before. So I immediately ran in there and said, guys, I want it. You said if I want it, you get me a flag. And I said, all right, Cliff, we'll take care of you. So who knows? They probably had someone running all over Burbank, California, trying to find a store in the middle of the night that was open that sold American flags. But I got it. So yeah, that's how it works. And then the letter is written ahead of time, and then they type it up and all that. So and send it, or at least mine was. Later on the season, who knows? So all right, let's see what else do we have on here. Anthony Stykes, how possible is it that Turner and Brittany will be on the same page on Thursday night? Turner and Brittany on the same page to send out. I don't know. I'm trying to sit here and think how that would work. I expect right now that Turner probably would send out or vote to send out Taylor. That Brittany, she's not going to send out Taylor, right? That she's going to vote to send out Alyssa. That would lead Monty to break the tie, send Alyssa home. That's kind of my thinking. I don't see Brittany necessarily flipping on Taylor and aligning with Turner to send Taylor out the door and protect Alyssa. So the other direction then would be Turner flipping to keep his vote loyal to Taylor and send Alyssa out the door. I can see that happening more if he is convinced that Monty's not going to do it any differently, and I think he is. I think Monty will convince them that they need Taylor to stay to help them play in the next round and try to get Brittany out and everything else. I think it's entirely feasible that Turner goes over with Monty and votes out Alyssa. In which case, I said go over with Monty. Monty doesn't vote, goes over with Brittany and votes out Alyssa, just because it shows loyalty to Taylor. I think Taylor appreciates it. It makes their final three that much tighter. Turner's going to recognize a lost cause. He already told Monty, said, hey, if you need to send Alyssa home, we're tight, but we're not that tight. That's fine. So I kind of see that happening. I have a feeling it'll be a 2-0 vote to send Alyssa out the door. And I think Alyssa will understand as well. And I don't think it'll affect jury votes in terms of if Turner makes it to the jury, makes it to final two. I could still easily see Alyssa voting Turner to win this thing. So with that in mind, yeah, I can see them voting together at the end. But it's going to be voting to send out Alyssa, not to send out Taylor. I would be amazed to see Brittany do that. Now, having said that, if you're Alyssa and you want to try to survive this week, I don't think you can go in and pitch to the guys that, hey, or Brittany either. I don't think you can go in and pitch that, oh, man, I'll help your game. I'll do whatever you want. I'll win a competition for you. That's not going to work. I think Alyssa's best chance at this point in time is to try to find something that drives a wedge between Brittany and Taylor. Tell Taylor that, hey, Brittany's been throwing your name under the bus since the beginning. Come up with something. Find something that would cause Taylor and Brittany to have a falling out with each other, just on the chance that you could get Brittany maybe to go ahead and flip against Taylor and send her out the door. I think that's a tough thing to do. I don't think it's going to be easy at all, but I think that's Alyssa's only chance at this point in time. All right, Phillips Gooddyke and is saying, I think the votes will be close between Monty and Turner. And then Logan Hambrick saying, I think if it comes down to it, Monty would take Turner. Yeah, I agree with you. I think, I don't know. I don't know. I was getting ready to agree with you that he would take Turner. I think those two guys would like to go to a final two with each other. I think they understand each other well enough. I think they may fear Taylor and her ability to get votes from the women of the jury. From It's tough because I don't know for certain what they're thinking about Taylor and her first part of the season when she was so when she was so many people going against her, where she was such an outcast with certain people, and she's kind of had this comeback story, this underdog story that she survived, that she came all the way back. So if you're Monty, especially Monty, I think Turner takes Monty. I don't think he takes Taylor at all. But if you're Monty, do you take someone that you feel tightest which I think is Turner, or if you're considering taking Taylor, do you look at her as being easy to beat in front of the jury because she's won just that one HOH so far, right? I think that's the case. Do you argue that she really didn't contribute that much to the season in terms of strategy, that she just kind of survived? Do you take her because of that, or do you not take her because you're so fearful that people are going to vote for, perhaps out of even guilt for the way she was treated at the beginning of the season? You got to figure out what you think the jury's mindset is, and that's the toughest part of this game. I remember when I was Final Five and then Final Four, thinking, how in the world can I figure out who would vote for me or against me? Because I remember thinking, for example, Kat Dunn, thinking, well, I thought she was on my side, but she kind of walked out the door upset with me. So would she cast the vote for me, or would she cast it for, hopefully Nicole was going to be there alongside me? And then there are other people thinking, all right, well, then you've got Jessica, who probably a little more likely to vote for Nicole or Holly if they're next to me. And you just try to go over every single person and figure out, are they bitter? Or they appreciate gameplay? I figured Tommy would probably appreciate gameplay, and so I thought maybe I could have his vote. I'm sure that's going through every single one of these house guests' mind right now, looking at every one of those jurors. Who did I get all upset with me before they headed out the door? Who's on my side? Who could I take with me that they're going to even be more upset with? So, yeah, I don't. And then you add in the extra component with regards to Monty. Does he take Turner, or does he take Taylor? And if he takes Taylor, then you have that additional optic of two people of color at the very end, which, you got to take that into consideration as one of the factors that people are looking at this season. And that alone may be enough to make him think more about taking Taylor than otherwise. I don't know. I don't know. I think Turner takes Monty. Does Monty take Turner? I think that's a little bit iffier. It may have to do with who takes who. I mean, it may, if Monty wins part of this final three competition, and then Turner wins another part, so Taylor hadn't won anything at the very end, Monty may be more willing to take Taylor because she doesn't have any extra victories to count on. But if he wins the first part, for example, Taylor wins the second part, then he wins the final, maybe he's less likely to take Taylor because she's done a little bit more to protect herself in the end. That may come into play as well. All right, Vicky Stone saying it would be a triple if Brittany triple. Hold on, I can't read that. Let me try to find the comment. It would be a trip. Brittany won HOH. Talk about shaking up the house. Oh yeah. Now here's the thing to keep in mind, Vicky. It's not as much the HOH. It kind of is. But it's not as much the HOH as it is the veto competition that really matters this coming up week. If you win HOH, it does matter because whoever wins HOH guarantees them a spot in the final three. That's huge. That's gigantic. But in terms of figuring out who goes home, it's all about that veto, because whoever wins the veto, for the most part, not always, but the veto person has a lot of control over who goes home and who stays for the final three. And I say not always because let me just give you a scenario for my season. Nicole had won the HOH, so we knew she was going to the final three, and she's I was so happy for her. But she knew she's going to final three. So then it came down to the veto to see who was going to stick around and everything. Now I said that the person who wins veto always gets to decide, or usually gets to decide who goes home. In our case, if I'd won the veto, then I would have picked between Holly and Jackson. It would have been Jackson, Mickey, to go home. And so the veto winner did get to decide. But as I explained to Big Brother in a diary room one time, who was arguing with me that the veto winner always picks who goes home, I said, well, no, what if Nicole, who won HOH, also wins veto? So if Nicole won veto, she doesn't get a vote. She decides which two people are on the block, but she doesn't get to actually vote to see who goes home. It's whoever is not on the block as a result of her action then decides who goes home. So there are times where the veto winner doesn't actually decide who's not making it to final three. But for the most part, it's all about the veto more so than the HOH. A little technical stuff, probably much more than you cared about hearing. The big thing is, what happens if Brittany wins either HOH or veto, which guarantees her a spot in the final three? Then you get a whole new host of questions. If you're Monty or Turner, do you take Brittany thinking I can beat her in front of the jury any day of the week, which I think is true? Do you do that? It comes into like a BB16 season. Do you take Victoria or do you take Derek? That's kind of the situation they may be facing at that point in time. All right, Doug Nugent. Is there a chance that with everything against Brittany, would find a valuable option for final two, just as I was talking about? Yeah, absolutely. And how do you counter that? I mean, I've always heard the rumor, and I don't know if it's true, but I've always heard the rumor that in Big Brother 16, a lot of the people had gotten together and said, all right, it's going to be easy to take Victoria to final two just to try to win, but we don't want to see her get that far. So supposedly they all made a pact with each other that if anyone took Victoria to the final two, they were going to vote for her to win the whole thing, as opposed to the person who kind of played it safe and took her to the final two. I don't know if that's true. I just want to find some of those BB16 people and ask them. But could you have the same situation where if someone takes Brittany to the final two, Houseguests get so perturbed at it that they end up voting for Brittany? I don't see it. I don't see it in a million years. Brittany is not winning Big Brother season 24. Now that I've said it, I'm sure the karma is going to kick in. She's going to win every competition between now and the end. She's going to turn it all on. Michael's going to feel guilty because of the way he treated her, so he'll organize votes in the jury house. Brittany's going to win this thing by unanimous vote. She'll win everyone's vote. Even Monty will vote for it then. Yeah, I'm not buying it, but expect the unexpected. Hey, you know how Julie Chen goes down a water slide? But first, throw that in there. All right, let's see. Jimmer Treffley saying, I don't think Taylor has a chance. She hasn't done anything. Monty and Turner are my favorites. I kind of agree with you. I think if you look at Taylor, now she did win the wall competition, which is a very iconic competition. And I'm sure if I'm Taylor, and I've been thinking a lot about this, because when I was in the house, I was already preparing final two speeches and all that. And how are you going to convince the jury to vote for you? If I'm Taylor, I was trying to think, what would I do to present why I should win? And I think it would start off by saying, I was the outcast. For whatever reason, people just chose to turn against me in the very beginning. I didn't really have any support. I was on the block. I've been on the block 4, 5, 6, however many times it's going to work out. And I've survived every single time. I skin of my teeth, I've survived because I've done what it needs to take. I can see her making that argument. But even when she won her HOH was kind of a train wreck, if y'all remember. She wanted to put people up, and then she switched, and it all came down to wanting Kyle to use the veto so she could send out Alyssa. Even sending out Alyssa just seemed a little bit on a personal, emotional type level because Alyssa had taken her trip to London from the veto competition. Her HOH was not a clean HOH. She said yesterday, told Monty that she wants to win another HOH because her first one was sabotaged. It isn't a sabotage just because the veto holder doesn't want to do what you want them to do. That's not the definition of sabotage. Sabotage is when someone has a special power that affects your HOH, like what happened to me when Christy had her diamond power veto. That's kind of a sabotage, but hers, not the cleanest HOH that I've ever seen in this game. Not Frenchie level, but it kind of got close. So yeah, I think Taylor's got a difficult position to argue. She's going to have to rely on her jury management and her social game. She can't rely on the competitions, I don't think, because Monty and Turner have done so much more. And when you win a lot of HOHs and vetoes, it means you can control the action of what's happening, and you can then point to things. I mean, look at Turner. He's going to be able to point to the fact that I got Amira booted during my HOH when she was such a threat. I got Michael booted when he was such a threat, even though that was more Monty than it was Turner. He'll still claim credit for it. And I got Kyle out when all of that stuff happened. Turner's got a lot of things he can point to because he had power. Taylor just hadn't had enough power to really be able to point to those things. So, yeah, I think if I'm a betting man of a final three of Monty, Turner, and Taylor, I think Taylor is my least likely choice to win it. But she's also the only female in there. Are there some of these house guests that may vote for her because she's a female? If she's up on the block and it's her versus Turner, does ethnicity come into play? Yeah, well, I mean, it could. It absolutely could. So we'll see. All right. Annie Berger saying early comp to get back at them for sleeping all the time. Could be. I can see production saying, hey, let's see how well they think this thing up. They want to stay up till 5 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, we'll give them 5 o'clock in the morning. Because here's the thing. I mean, there's cameramen in there 24 hours a day, right? They're always in there. But I gotta think that we as viewers, we'll watch whenever. But if you're some cameraman, I gotta think that when they're in bed, there's probably less people filming than when everyone's up running around in the house and all of that. So, and I have no idea how many cameramen there are. Just for granted, it's like 100. I know that's probably, it could be that many. I doubt it though. Maybe 100 during the day and 20 at night. And now because they stay up till 5 or 6 in the morning, old BB management saying, hey, hate to do it, guys, but y'all are going to have to come in Friday night. It looks like they're going to be staying up all night long. We need extra cameramen. And yeah, so there may be a bunch of people grumbling behind the scenes saying, let's show them that we actually do have the power. It's probably not anything nearly as close as that. But having said that, you don't want to make Big Brother mad, however, whatever form that takes. I know during my season, there were a few of the ladies in my house who weren't real happy when they got called to the diary room right after they got ready for bed, had their makeup off and all of that. And so they thought they would teach Big Brother a lesson by taking as long as they could to put their makeup back on and make Big Brother wait as long as possible. They thought they'd teach him a lesson so that it wouldn't continue happening. Based on my experience, it seems like Big Brother said, fine, we'll play that game if you want to play. Because one or two of those ladies ended up getting called to the diary room a whole lot in the middle of the night. You can't win against Big Brother. You just ought to go ahead and admit it going in, saying, you own me, you're the god of the house. I'll do whatever I need to do to keep you happy, Big Brother. So, yeah, maybe they're just getting back at him for these late night hijinks and all that. Chaz is saying, are you surprised at all that Monty didn't put Turner up instead of Taylor to let Taylor and Brittany send him home? I thought about that. I absolutely did. And in fact, at one point, I did one of my recaps and said I can kind of see him maybe sending Turner out because he's got to know that Turner is a threat. I think at the end, it just came down to the idea that Monty did not want to be in a house of 3 women and Monty. I think he just was uncomfortable with the idea of it, especially he had heard talk about this girls' alliance, whether it was true or not. He wasn't getting straight answers. He was being told that I think Taylor had said, no, that was all Alyssa that was behind it. Brittany, I don't remember. They were all kind of blaming each other on it. And so I just don't know that Monty 100% knew or thought whether this girls' alliance actually existed or not. And I think that alone scared him. And here's the other. Do y'all know that Monty, and I may be wrong, correct me if I am, I don't think that Monty has ever nominated until this week, or has never nominated a guy to go on the block. He's always put the women on the block for whatever reason. I just think he felt uncomfortable that he was going to be outnumbered from a gender standpoint. which could or could not have an impact. But it may have been something as simple as that in that house. You look at every tiny little thing when you're in there about what could have an effect, and it could be something as simple as that. All right, Bex Howell saying, "How did you come up with SKD 143?" All right, some of y'all, I know some of y'all have heard it, so I'll go quick with it. But Bex, here's what happened. While I was packing, I didn't know for certain that I was getting picked for Big Brother, but I knew that production was going to come out and film some stuff. You know, they've got alternates and all that, so you just don't ever know for certain. But I did know they were coming out to film, and so I was packing up clothing just in case I went in the house. And while I was doing that, we were watching a documentary on one of the TV channels, documentary on Mr. Rogers. And one of Mr. Rogers' favorite things was the term 143, which stands for I love you. There's one letter in I, four letters in love, three letters in you. So he would always say 143. That's also back in the old days when we had beepers, pagers. Someone could type in 143 as shorthand for I love you. It's, you know how they do it on social media. We actually did the same thing back in the old days with the pagers, similar little shorthand and all that. So that's where the 143 came from. I love you. Well, I was watching that documentary and I said, all right, if I do make it in that house, I'm going to give y'all a shout out of saying 143. And I thought a little bit more and said, I think I'm going to do an SKD. So y'all know Sharon, Kelly, Daniel. Those are the name of my wife, name of my two kids. So SKD, Sharon, Kelly, Daniel, 143. I love you. And it's that simple. I didn't really go in thinking I was going to do it all the time. I just did it as a quick, I didn't do any kind of shout out the first time I voted. I was just so frantic that I was actually in there talking to Julie casting a vote. I didn't even think of doing a shout out. But then the second week I was in there, I did that as a shout out, and I thought, oh, that sounds kind of cool. And so I started doing some of the competitions and things like that. And next thing you know, it just, how can you not? So yeah, it's been kind of my little phrase ever since then, and I like it. It's just shorthand saying I love you, family. All right, Lucinda S. When is the next live? I enjoy listening to you. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Lucinda. I absolutely appreciate the support. We do this every Monday night without fail. There's been one or two times where I had to cut a little short. Go back and find the COVID episode when I lost my voice, and I think we did for about 15 minutes. But even then, I tried to do a little something. But yeah, we do it every Monday night, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. What is that? 6 o'clock Mountain, 5 o'clock West Coast. Sorry, y'all West Coasters. I make it a little tough for you. But yeah, we do it every Monday night, YouTube channel. And during Big Brother season, obviously, we talk all Big Brother. During the off season, we'll talk everything. We'll talk about movies. We'll talk about what we're binging. It's kind of open to the thing is, I do these morning recaps where I talk about what's happening in the Big Brother house. And I enjoy keeping up, and I enjoy kind of doing some conjectures and opinions and all that. But I really kind of like getting the questions from y'all and getting a little bit more of a chance to interact with folks. So that's what's so special about these Monday nights. So every Monday night, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. All right, Astro Boy. Hey, Astro Boy, saying Taylor can beat Monty in votes. You think so? I'm not disagreeing with you. I think it's possible. I don't know. I mean, look at the jurors and try to figure out who not just likes or dislikes Taylor, likes or dislikes Monty, but who likes or dislikes one or the other more. I could easily see Brittany and Michael voting for Taylor. I mean, that's two votes right there. Jasmine and Indy, would they? Which way are they going to go? They were negative towards Taylor while she was in the house, but I almost feel like now that if she makes it to the end, there may be some respect from those two, and there may be votes cast from both of them. And if that's the case, suddenly you're up to 4. I can see, I don't know, where's Kyle going to go? I think Alyssa would. Kyle, Terrence was very negative towards Taylor. I would think Terrence. I think Terrence would vote for Monty. I just don't see him flipping at this point in time. I think Turner would probably vote for Monty unless he's bitter because of whatever happens. I think it would be close. I don't think this is going to be a runaway vote, regardless of which two end up. Well, if Brittany ends up, I think it'll be runaway for whoever's against her. But other than that, I think it's going to be a 5-4, 6-3 type vote. Probably, possibly. So yeah, I think you're right. I think Taylor could win. I don't think her resume is as strong as the other two, but it's not just about resume, right? It's about how you interacted with the other people and who they feel most comfortable awarding the money to. There's a lot of that involved with it. So I'm not betting either direction on that one. Saying, would you ever do an all-star season? Well, yeah, of course I would. But they got to call me. It may be a little embarrassing if I just show up at the door for an all-star season with my big brother bag packed and they say, "Oh, Cliff, we already have 16 people." Yeah, I know, but I'm just in case someone got sick or something. Yeah, I'd do it. It'd be a lot of fun. As I always say, I've got to check with my family first, but they've always supported me in all these crazy adventures. So yeah, it'd be fun to do. All right, Mark Taylor, what was your cartoon character? Yeah, I had a BB Comics as well. So cool. My character was the groundhog. I think I don't remember what the little tagline was, but it was a picture of my face with like a groundhog's body, little whiskers coming off, and I had the cowboy hat on, and I think there was a bunch of land behind me and like a bunch of dirt thrown up, like I'd come underground like a mole or something, and there were criminals all bouncing around like the ground had disrupted them, something like that. So that was my comic. Now, remember, these comics, you have to distinguish between the two comics to see which one's correct, which one didn't. In my case, the difference between the two comics, one had the whiskers, one didn't. And yeah, that was mine. Here's a funny story about that. The way the comics were set up, mine, I believe, was the second top row, top row, but second all the way to the right. So it was way off to the inside. And I was so busy playing the game that I just kind of forgot that there was even a comic for me. It just didn't even sink in. And I started doing all my comics in order from left to right. And so I was halfway through the competition before I ever even got to mine. And I remember looking at saying, "Oh, that's me." I forgot that I had a comic just for me. So I looked at it for just a sec. It's like, all right, well, that's kind of cool. And then proceeded to do the rest of the competition because I thought my life depended on it, and it almost did. But yeah, so that was my comic. And after the season's over, Big Brother sends you a box of mementos, some of the costumes you wore, things like that. And they sent the comic, one of my most treasured items. It's really cool. Tom Wynn's the guy who painted it or did the animation. If I ever see him at one of these Comic Cons or something, I'm going to get him to sign it again because it's so impressive. I love having that thing. All right, train driver Carl said, what could you have from the house? Oh, when the show's over. Oh, just what I was talking about. Sorry. Yeah, you don't get to pick what you get from the house. I tried to leave the house with the recipe for slop. All the ingredients. I thought that'd be pretty fun to have. And it was listed just to make sure no one had allergies or anything else. So I took that and I put it in my bag. Yeah, no, they grabbed that on my bag. I did not get to keep it. When you leave the house, you can't take anything that you didn't come into the house with, right? So your clothes and all that you get, but costumes and all that, yeah, that stuff's yanked right back out. But then at the end of the season, as I said, they send a box to you. And I'm trying to think what it had. It had a whole lot of the costumes that I wore during the different competitions. It had my BB comic. It had the key that I found to get into the house. It had my little chip that they drew for veto picks and things like that. I got one or two from OTEV. In our season, we had to find different bottles that listed different competitions we played in. And one of them was the Patch Perfect, which I won HOH. So they sent the little thing from OTEV that had Patch Perfect listed, cast photo that we'd all signed, a t-shirt that a guy does animation for, and so just a bunch of fun things like that. But you don't get to pick anything. They just decide what to send you or not send to you, but they sent some cool stuff. All right, Logan Hambrick saying, I think this is one of the most exciting Final Fives because once they evicted Michael, it became a major toss-up. I absolutely agree. Because Michael has won so many competitions, I really feel like we didn't necessarily get to see these house guests play as much games, placement strategy or anything else because Michael had such a stranglehold over everything that was happening. You know, the fact that Turner's won 3 HOHs, considering how well Michael was doing in this game, says a lot, right? The fact that Taylor's only won HOH, well, yeah, it's because Michael was winning so much everything. So, yeah, I think it's more exciting because we don't really know. Look at Monty. I went into this season thinking Monty's a personal trainer. He's in great shape. He's young enough. He ought to be able to dominate a lot of these competitions. I didn't say that about Michael. Shame on me. But I thought Monty's going to be able to win a lot. He's going to be able to control a lot of the conversations and all that. That didn't happen. Monty's been forced to take a little bit more of a back seat. I mean, he's always now. We heard a lot of talk through the whole mid game. There was talk about we got to get Monty out. We got to get Monty out. That's all Jasmine was talking about. Indy. Monty was a target for a long period of time, but he always was kind of in the background, not really contributing a lot, other than just being a voice and all that. He didn't have control so much. Well, now that's changed. Now we get to see a whole different side of Monty, even during that double eviction on Thursday. The fact that Turner was ready just to send out Brittany, send Brittany out the door, kind of take the safer approach. And Monty came and said, "Now we're taking our shot, man. We got to take it right now." Monty took control of that situation and did what I think had to be done for the rest of the players. Because here's the other thing. If they had not gotten Michael out, the next HOH competition was that haunted house, scary kind of thing that we saw on the TV episode last night. He would have dominated that, right? I mean, he goes on and on that he runs an escape room and all. He doesn't, but I'm sure he's got a lot of experience with it. The next competition, the veto competition, is a bunch of gears and everything, very logical thinking requirement for that one. Well, we know Michael's a logical thinker. He probably would have dominated both those competitions. So we would have had Michael now in complete control over who goes home for the most part. Brittany would have still been incredibly happy, overjoyed, and thinking she's running the world next to Michael. It would be such a completely different game. So you're right. Everything is freed up with Michael gone. Nothing against Michael. You know, he played a dominant game. I expect we'll see him back one of these seasons because so many comp wins and all of that. So he played a great game, but with him being gone, yeah, everything becomes more of an opportunity for everyone else. Brittany wins a veto that she normally probably wouldn't have won. So yeah, I think it's an exciting Final Five. Last season with the cookout, it was so predetermined, the Final Six. Then it got to be a little exciting. Who's going to turn on who? Is it going to be the women versus the men? You know, Tiffany's leading the way, but not really knowing. So that was exciting, but in a different way. This time it's because we haven't seen them play the game yet. Yeah, I'm excited for it. All right, Fonzo Torres saying, would you vote for Alyssa or Brittany if you went out, weren't in your position and they were final two? Oh, Alyssa or Brittany? Man, you're making it tough. You know what? It would depend on how they got there. It comes down to that. Who drags who to the end? Does Alyssa win the final competition and take Brittany along, or vice versa? That could come into play. It would come into play what kind of arguments they made. Brittany, I don't think she's done a lot, but she's probably done more than Alyssa, right? Gameplay wise. I don't know. I probably, without any more information than we have right now, I'd probably give it to Brittany, because Brittany would make the argument, which is it's a valid strategy to say, I'm going to find someone else and I'm going to latch onto them and I'm going to ride with them to the very end. She did that with Michael before she even knew what a comp beast he was. And once she knew how strong a player he was, you don't abandon ship. You stick with it. You ride that cart all the way to the very end, which is what she did. And I would think that would be her argument of, I won one or two vetoes when I absolutely needed to, and I found who to align myself with to protect me for the weeks I didn't have protection. That's all valid conversation and valid strategy. On the other hand, you've got Alyssa, who people are going to say she only survived because she had a showmance in the house who refused to use a veto on her. And yeah, I think I give it to Brittany. But you're putting me in a tough position with that question there. All right, Frankie's World saying, Monty's going to lose after he chose to keep Turner. He isn't thinking how easy he would have it to win veto next week without Turner there and his betrayals. Yeah, I think that you could be right. Yeah. Because if Turner was to go, then you're right. In terms of veto, regardless who wins HOH, because again, all that determines is who's final three. In terms of going home, all he would have to do is beat out Alyssa. Done. You think, right? Done. Beat out Taylor and beat out Brittany. He's got to think that he could beat all three of those. He and Turner have talked about it. They feel like they could beat all three of those. So, yeah, you're right, and that gives him the veto. And then if he wins the veto, who knows who he wants to take to the final three at that point? Taylor and Alyssa. He's not taking Brittany. Yeah, no, I think that's a valid point, and yeah, I don't disagree with you on that. He may be a little short-sighted thinking about it, but I think it's just the idea of being in the house with those three ladies that worries him. But you're right. I think he would stand a better chance. Is it a sign of trust? Is he willing to do that because he is so trusting that Turner can win a veto and protect him next week? And then it comes down to, does he think that he's got the votes to beat Turner at the end of the day? I'm not sure if that's the case. Has Turner alienated a lot of people on this jury? I don't know. Jasmine may not be voting for Turner, but beyond that, I don't know. Does Jasmine influence Indy and keep Indy from voting for Turner as well? Maybe. I don't know how it all works out, but it's a good point. I think that's a valid concern that you threw out there. All right, Erica waits. Are there restrictions on what you can say in a goodbye message? No, none whatsoever. Now, it doesn't mean that they're going to show everything that you say in a goodbye message, but the way goodbye messages worked is typically the night before an eviction. Big Brother calls everyone in. Everyone knows what they're getting called in for. You sit down in the diary room and they say, all right, Cliff, whoever, Jessica and Kat are on the block and one of them's going to go home. Would you like to do your goodbye messages? Well, yeah. It's okay. Start with whichever one you want and talk as long as you want, say whatever you want, and just have fun. And so you start talking and you go and you may say, yeah, kind of mess up. Can I do it again? Yeah, Cliff, go ahead. Just start wherever you want. Start at the beginning, start in the middle. We don't care. We're just going to record you talking for as long as you want. So you can say whatever you want. And I've said this before. On mine, I usually kept it pretty short and sweet. I had about 20, 30 seconds of stuff I would say. And I had it already rehearsed and knew what I wanted to say. Because my thinking was, if I talk for 5 minutes, they're going to go in, they're just going to pick the stuff that sounds best. And it may not really represent what I want that person to think. You know, I may take 4.5 minutes of saying, you are a wonderful person, and say, but you really kind of made me mad when you did this. Well, they're going to take that little 15-second clip and suddenly, who knows? So I know some people talk forever in there. I would just talk for 20 or 30 seconds. If you ever do your goodbye message and then a couple hours later you decide that you want to say something else, you can go in and say, hey, can I do that again? Yeah, sure, no problem. So you re-record it, but you don't know if they're going to take the first one or the second one. Once it's on film, who knows? But yeah, we can say whatever we want. Oh, 7:59. All right, we're going to shut it down quick. But Amy K saying, do you still get recognized when you're in public? Yeah, all the time. And I love it. I got to say, so many people come up and say, I don't want to bother you. I don't want to disturb you. If we're talking Big Brother, you're not ever, if y'all ever see me out and you don't come up and say hi, I'm going to be a little personal offended that you didn't stop by and say hi. It never bothers me. I mean, I guess if I'm going to the bathroom in some restaurants, maybe, but realistically, it's never going to bother me if I'm eating dinner, if I'm waiting somewhere, a grocery store, whatever. I love talking Big Brother. Y'all can tell, right? I mean, I do all these shows. I love talking Big Brother. I love talking about the experience. So, yeah, all the time. Now, obviously, there's a lot of people who don't watch Big Brother, but there's the people that come up and say, "Oh my gosh, you're Cliff from Big Brother." Yeah, I am. And then there's other people that don't necessarily want to come up and say hi, but I'll see them kind of holding their cell phone camera like this, walking by, or kind of looking over their shoulder and all that. And I always want to come up to them and say, "Hey, you want to say hi or something?" But then I'm always worried that they're going to not have a clue who I am, and I'm just going to look like a creep or something after that. So yeah, but yeah, it happens all the time, and it is so much fun. I love talking to fans, and yeah, it just kind of lightens my day up every time I do that. We get to talk a little bit, but so yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, 8 o'clock, we're going to shut it down. Oh, it was such a fun week of Big Brother. This next week, I hope it's as much fun. We're getting close to the end. And I got to say, once you get down to the last couple, it gets a little more boring in that house. There's not nearly as many options and scenarios that can happen. But this Thursday is going to be fun to see how that all works out. And yeah, as someone said, the HOH and the veto competition, most important of the season. And if Brittany wins either one, got to throw such confusion in the house. That's going to be interesting as well. So guys, y'all have a great Monday. Have a great rest of the week. We'll be back again next Monday to talk about Big Brother again. I'll be doing my morning recaps between now and then. If you haven't already gone out there and subscribed to my channel, please do so. If you haven't turned on your notifications, if you do so, you'll get notified every time I drop one of my morning recaps and any other shows I do on down the road. And while you're out there, if you want to hit that little thumbs up, I've been told that's kind of cool too. So I always appreciate that. Guys, y'all have a fantastic Monday. I will talk to y'all again next week. Hey, one other thing. Someone asked me a question. How do I ask questions on this if I maybe can't participate in the show or not? If you ever want a question answered, and whether you're going to be on chat or not, but you really have a big question, hit me up on DM. Send it that way, and I'll either answer it on DM or I'll save it for the show itself, and I'll get you taken care of. Guys, y'all have a great Monday. Until then, SKD 143. Cheers, my friends. Bye. See y'all later, guys. Bye.